Hello everybody and welcome back to another Sai Knows the Score video where, wow, we received breaking news very early on this morning at 12:15 in the morning to be exact, that Nuno Espirito Santo has been relieved of his duties as head coach of Nottingham Forest. Whew, yeah, Nottingham Forest fans, what are you all thinking right now? I bet this was I say out of the blue, I suppose given the fractious nature recently between the relationship of them both, maybe it's not completely out of the blue. However, I personally thought maybe it's been a few weeks now, maybe they've got over it and they're all best friends again. Well, not exactly best friends, but you know what I'm trying to get at. So yeah, I mean, look, Nuno came in, didn't he, in 2023, December 20th, 2023 to be exact, took over Nottingham Forest, who were just floating above the relegation zone in 17th place, managed to secure them Premier League football for the following season after remaining and staying in 17th place, which is a win in your first season as a newly promoted team. And yeah, you know, obviously last season did exceptionally well, didn't they? That counter-pressy football, yes, low possession-based football, but counter-pressy, organised football, really did well away from home, did well at home too, and yeah, you'd have thought moving forward he had at least another season in him, but of course at the back end of last season in May, when Leicester had a late comeback against Nottingham Forest, I believe they were 2-0 up against Leicester, and then it ended up 2-2, and of course the famous Mr. Marianakis comes onto the football pitch, starts screaming at Nuno in his face, where even after the game Gary Neville was like, Nuno should quit his job there and then. Maybe it's a bit excessive, but you know, the passion that Mr. Marianakis has all came out and flooding out in that moment, and maybe the relationship never really recovered from there. But then in July, Edu was appointed the global head of football, wasn't he, for Nottingham Forest, and he just doesn't seem to have gotten any better from there. Now, is that Edu's fault? It's difficult to say. I mean, look, the incomings apparently weren't what Nuno wanted. He wanted another couple fullbacks and a goalkeeper in there by the end of the transfer deadline. And I mean, look, they even signed players like Backwell. And I mean, Backwell's such an exceptional talent as well. So look, you can't shy away from signings like Backwell if it is there and available to you. But of course, there was lots of discrepancies in where the thought the squad should be going, and obviously it's all coming to fruition now. So look, the signings, as every season it's probably going to be this case for Forest, there's going to be lots of incomings, lots of outgoings, and yeah, I mean, come August the 15th, which was I think the first day of the Premier League or thereabouts, he admitted that there was problems unbalancing the side, and they were very, very far away from where they needed to be. And of course, when you're in European competition, you do need squad depth and a well-balanced squad. You need to be able to substitute those players or replace those players in an instant, don't you? Especially because you expect to have more injuries due to fatigue. And then they went on and signed Hutchinson, Douglas, Louise, James McAtee and Kalimwendo as well, all on the same day as when those comments were made, I believe, or thereabouts, or they're advanced talks for those players anyway. And then again a week later, he came out and said that the relationship between Nuno and Mr. Marianakis was not the same. And he admitted, where there's smoke, there's fire. So yeah, he obviously thought that his position was at risk at that moment in time too, and of course a few weeks later, now we know he definitely was at risk, even though Marianakis was baffled by those comments. But I think the other thing to really note as well, you've got to feel sorry for these players. You know, they brought in Zinchenko, which was a fullback, and of course Hutchinson, and left both of those players out of the Europa League squad. So why did he do that? Did he feel like the squad was unbalanced if you had all those players in and thought there was better quality ahead of them? Was he trying to make a statement? I mean, it's impossible to say right now, and how you interpret that, you know, I don't know if there's any right or wrong with it. I mean, look, maybe he wanted a certain amount of players in each position, and he felt like Hutchinson and Zinchenko weren't going to cut the fold. But then the bizarre thing about it is that he wanted fullbacks and a keeper, but then left Zinchenko out. So, yeah, how do you interpret it? I mean, the whole fullback situation for me, because it's Zinchenko who left out, I'm more prone to say it was a statement of intent as opposed to it being, squad balance there. Because if it had left out another attacker, yes, there would still be a statement of intent there, wouldn't there? And to really, show Mr. Marinakis why he's submitted that squad for registration for the Europa League. But I think when you're taking out a full-back, which he requested in the last couple of days of the season, of the transfer window even, then, yeah, for sure, I do think maybe you could interpret that in a way of, okay, yeah, he's really trying to, add more flames to the fire, really, isn't it? What next for Nottingham Forest? Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've got the likes of Big Ange, Mourinho, Cooper, and Brendan Rodgers, all now apparent candidates according to the media. But of course, the media, what can you take from it? Now, when you look at Nottingham Forest since Nuno has been in charge, they have maintained what Steve Cooper was doing with the counter-pressing type of football, low possession-based, and just using their qualities in both boxes, really. I mean, you had the likes of Milenkovic, wasn't he, who was superb as well last season. I believe he was in the Premier League team of the season, deservedly so. And when you do actually look at the statistics, which you can see here, last season, home and away, they were tremendous, especially away from home. I mean, being the third best team away from home with 10 wins, 3 draws and 6 losses. It's quite good going, isn't it? Third in the league, beating the likes of Man City away from home. Again, I think the style of play, because they're hard to beat, really well organised. It's definitely something that Nottingham Forest have in abundance. And I mean, when you go to the City ground, it's always going to be electric. It's always going to be a good atmosphere. So that's always going to help with the home form too. Now, just to break it down a little bit further, and I mean, how much do you take and can you take from the expected goals category? Sometimes on a game-to-game basis, not so much, but over the course of a season, it might tell a bit of a story. And so when we look here, there were 14th for expected goals for, and in fact, their expected goals against superseded their expected goals for. However, when you look at it, they were just so efficient in both boxes that it didn't really matter. So yeah, I mean, look, if you've got the quality defenders and you've got the likes of Chris Wood up front that's able to outperform his XG, then it's always going to set you in good stead, isn't it? And so if you were to bring in someone like an Ange Postecoglou, what would happen there? I mean, in my opinion, they're quite, obviously at Spurs, when you've got the players to hide, it was always going to be somewhat possession-based football. But I think that's just Ange's style. He's always said he's stubborn in that sense. He's never going to change the way he plays. So if he was to go to Forest, you'd probably look to play a possession-based type of football, which from a Forest point of view and maybe even a neutral point of view would look very nice in the eye. But would that suit the squad at maybe Ange's disposal if he was to come in? I don't know. I mean, there's an adaptation period, isn't there? I mean, there's been a lot of incomings. I do think when you look at the squad, when you've got pace up and down the wings, you've got Backwell there as well now, haven't you? Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood, who's very good for hold-up play, more suitable, you would say, to possession-based football as well now. Because a lot of teams, you look at gyokeres as well, Haaland. Haaland doesn't have many touches in the game, but they all hold up the ball very well, don't they? So there's no reason why Wood couldn't do his thing in a possession-based team too. Of course, the manager would have to be somewhat adaptable to the squad he has, and as just mentioned, Big Ange is quite stubborn, is he, in his approach with that. So would he be a good fit overall? I think there are better fits out there, which we'll get onto. I mean, you've got the likes of Steve Cooper again, who touted and as expected because he's free on the market at the moment. Nottingham Forest link. I think given the ambitions of Mr. Marinakis and probably the Forest fans now, I just can't see why Cooper would be a fit for them now. I think where the club want to be, there's no disrespect to Cooper, who's a phenomenal manager. I just think they'll be looking at more reputable targets, won't they now? Which, speaking of reputable targets, Jose Mourinho, of course, just got the boot at Fenerbahce and did recently say that if he was to, once he left Fenerbahce, that he would take a low-end Premier League job. But Forest aren't a low-end Premier League team anymore, are they? They secured 7th, got the Europa League, and so you can imagine the love hearts are in Mourinho's eyes right now. You can imagine he's going to be applying for that job straight away, straight on the phone, trying to get hold of Mr. Marinakis, telling him why he'll be the best candidate for the role. And so, yeah, I mean, is Mourinho now washed up? I mean, he's obviously had a great history, hasn't he? But he hasn't really done much in the last 10 years, has he? He did well at Man United to get them second place. And to be fair, look at the recent history. He wasn't wrong when he said that second place was like winning the title. So, yeah, that was his last real good job, wasn't it? All in all. Didn't do a whole lot at Fenerbahce, but then Galatasaray, Turkish giants. It was always going to be hard to overthrow those. The style of play, Mourinho, I'd say is a good fit for Nottingham Forest, given the current style of play that Forest probably have. So, yeah, Mourinho has that part the bus approach, which, you'll say he doesn't part the bus. But he's more than capable, especially against teams that are expected to have the ball, of being able to be compact and then going on there to win matches against the likes of Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea. So maybe Mr. Marinakis will look at that and his European pedigree, that he can come in and be ambitious and maybe even win Europa League with Nottingham Forest. So that could be something that could be looked at. Again, I think there's even better candidate out there right now that maybe they could go for in the short run, and that would be Brendan Rodgers. Now, Brendan Rodgers, of course, has the easy task again at Celtic after going there for a second stint, and always going to be guaranteed trophies. It's always going to look good on your CV when you've got 25 trophies, because you're always going to win the league, aren't you? It's expected to win the Scottish Cup as well, aren't you, when you're at Celtic? Because unfortunately Rangers are going through a bit of a period again where they're not really challenging for these trophies. So, yeah, overall, on that note, you would say, well, yeah, is he going to come in and do the same thing at Nottingham Forest? Of course not. But I do think when you look at his time at Leicester, it shows that he's flexible, he's adaptable to both possession-based football and counter-attacking football. So Mr. Marinakis might look at that and think, well, you know what, maybe he wants to play some more nice, stylistically pleasing on the eye football. So it could be something to look out for. And for me, why not? Why not do that? Why not take a slight gamble, but not too much of a gamble by going for like an Ange? Okay, there's a Greek link there, isn't there? So that's why Ange is always going to be mentioned. But yeah, Rodgers for me, I think because of the adaptable nature that he has for the squads, and I think this squad in particular has a good variety of being able to both press and also counter press, I think it could be a good fit. And of course, Forest fans, let me know what you think. Of course, neutrals, who do you think could also be a good fit for Nottingham Forest? And I mean, as mentioned there, Ange's always going to be touted, isn't he? Mourinho is always going to be good for the media and getting clickbaits for headline titles. So yeah, things to think about there, isn't there? And whoever comes in, look, they don't have a pre-season. They don't have any more transfers. Not that it's necessarily required, because they have spent just over 200 million, haven't they? But yeah, to really implement a style of play, if you bring Big Ange in right now, it's going to be a struggle. Look, fortunately for them, they've got Sunderland and Burnley, where you are expected against newly promoted teams to get all 3 points against them, aren't you, both home and away. So they might look at that and think, well, we'll get over to the line to the next international break, and then of course there's another international break, unfortunately, in November. So maybe if you can get the squad to adapt in the next couple of months, and then push on, maybe get the squad to a top 7 finish again, and push on in the Europa League for a minimum semi-final finish. Mr. Marinakis might look at that as success. Maybe not Mr. Marinakis, I think, unless he wins something. It's probably not success, is it really? He'd probably be looking at Champions League football and at least the Europa League trophy win this season, especially given the money. I think he'll want a return on his investment, won't he? So yeah, something to look out for. But again, please let me know in the comments below what you think. And yeah, thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, and look out for more videos. And yeah, have a great day until the next one. Goodbye for now.